Welcome to episode 155 of the Alcohol Addiction Podcast. My name is Davy. I am not an alcoholic and I refuse to be anonymous. I'm someone who doesn't drink alcohol and I spend every waking moment helping other people do the same. Before we get going today onto our topic of conversation, I just want to say a big well done to Catherine. Catherine is a striver and she has gone 100 days without having a drink of alcohol. So well done, Catherine. Very proud of you. Kiss, kiss. Round of applause. And Serena has recently finished the life-changing experience and has become a moderator. So absolutely blown over by that decision. I think Serena has so much to give to the rest of the Strive community, and she wrote a testimonial, and I'd like to read it out to you if I would, because I think it's quite beautiful. I like to share these things with people, especially if you're thinking about whether or not you should get involved in some of the experiences we have here at Truth About Alcohol. So Serena said, I graduated from the above 4-month experience this week, and I can honestly say it has been truly life-changing. In thinking about what to say in this testimonial this morning, I wrote down all the ways that my life has changed over the last 4 months, and it's pretty unrecognizable. During this experience, I have found the emotional strength to be a solid support for me and my daughter in a time of crisis, learned how to align my life to tap into my true calling and creativity, become more focused and productive, understood the value of being myself and being with myself, become physically fit, stronger, healthier, learned how to communicate better, being offered several other life-changing experiences, including being of service to others who wish to stop drinking alcohol. And it is undeniably hard to go through this experience, and at the end of the day, only you can make that decision and do the work. But you won't be alone. Lee has and continues to dedicate himself to this 100%, and I cannot thank him enough for providing this opportunity. Him and the other moderators will support you all the way to becoming your best self. Thank you for writing that, Serena. Very beautiful. Now, the life-changing experience is dying out. It's not open. You can't join it anymore. We have 2 groups that are just finishing off, and then after that, we won't be talking about it anymore. What is replaced the life-changing experience is the Truth About Alcohol Intensive. Now, the Truth About Alcohol Intensive is an annual subscription. It costs £600, and for that annual subscription, what you get is you get 4 months of daily assignments and coaching from myself and the other moderators, where you can learn the truth about alcohol philosophy, raise that awareness of that philosophy internally, neurologically, so you can become someone who doesn't drink alcohol without craving. And then beyond that, when you are in that state, we then work on reasserting yourself back in society. How do we exist now that we're someone who doesn't drink alcohol when my partner does, when my kids do, when my mother does, when my work colleagues do, when every function that I'm supposed to attend to contains alcohol? How do we manage that? And that's what we cover in the 3rd module. So you've got truth, you've got awareness, then you have freedom. And that will take you about 4 months. And then not everybody will finish in 4 months, because like an assignment a day is quite a lot. So then we have 8 months beyond that where you can digest the material and work in a peer group setting in the Strive movement in order for you to really put this kind of philosophy into practice. The Strive movement isn't a public forum anymore, it's private, and so to get an annual subscription to that, you join the Truth About Alcohol Intensive. If that's a little bit too much for you and you just want to join the Strive movement, then we have paid options over at the site www.thetruthaboutalcohol.gmail.com. And if you're worried about thinking about giving up drinking forever, and some of you think giving up drinking forever is like giving up life, then don't worry, you're not alone. One of the reasons why there are so few of us when you look around the world is because the thought of giving up forever terrifies people and they don't want to think about it. If that is you, then don't worry, we have the Truth About Alcohol Taster, a monthly experience where you get access to the Strive Community Forum, the Strive Movement for a month. You will get a video a day and work in a peer group setting with assignments for 27 days of the month. You'll be working with myself and the other moderators in that group. And that group is designed to give you a taste of why it's called a taster, a taste of the intensive, a taste of what we are really going to be working on in the Truth About Alcohol philosophy, and how everything works at the Truth About Alcohol in order for you to become someone who doesn't drink alcohol without craving. That experience is £49. The next one we're going to run starts on November the 1st, okay? If you want to join that group, then go to thetruthaboutalcohol.co.uk and look for Truth About Alcohol Experiences in the sidebar, and then you will find the Truth About Alcohol taster, and you'll be able to sign up, watch a little video, and sign up for that, okay? If you've got any questions, just email me at thetruthaboutalcohol@gmail.com. Now, this next podcast I'm going to talk about today actually comes from one of those experiences. We currently have a Truth About Alcohol taster just running down now. We've got a couple more days this week, and then that ends in October. And just recently on there, myself and Lynn and Louise, two of the members on that taster, I've been talking about the value of wine and understanding whether or not wine has value or not. So I decided that I was going to talk about it on a video rather than talk about it in the written word, and that's why I'm doing this podcast. So I think when it comes down to value, let me just say this. The way that the Truth About Alcohol philosophy works is, in order for us to become people who don't crave alcohol, okay, so in order for us to become someone who doesn't drink alcohol and not crave alcohol, okay, then we really need to change the way that we think around alcohol, all right? Why is it important to not crave alcohol? Well, there are people in the world who white knuckle it, right? There are people in the world who say, I'm never going to drink again. They don't pick up a book like Alan Carr or Jason Vale or Annie Grace. They don't join any kind of support mechanism like Hello Sunday Morning or 1 Year No Beer or Hip Sobriety or Strive. And they don't really talk about it. They just white knuckle it. They just decide not to drink. And very often what happens is people then kind of like start living a life of lack because they are fighting against an internal system and a way of being that is being automated by a subconscious for decades, multiple decades. And that's very, very difficult. So you'll end up going to the pub with your mates and you want a drink of alcohol, but you try not to have one because you're white knuckling. And for me, that is like deciding to wear a chocolate pair of sunglasses while riding through the desert when you're blind with only having one ear. All right? It's just not going to work. Okay? So it's too open to too many risks. So we need to remove the craving, because if we remove the craving, then we don't have any desire to drink. And if we don't have any desire to drink, then we're in a pub and someone says, do you want to drink? Your answer is going to be the same as if someone said, do you want some Brussels sprout juice? You're just going to say no, because you just don't have any desire to drink that in the moment, okay? And the thought of actually drinking Brussels sprout juice is going to be disgusting to you. And hopefully by that time, the thought of drinking alcohol is going to be the same, right? So this concept of value is super, super important. Now, attached to this concept of value, which is equally, if not more important, okay, is this difference between short-term game and long-term philosophy, okay? As addicts, we need to accept that our biggest problem is our inability to get over short-term gain. It's the old-fashioned marshmallow test, right? Where the scientists leave the kids in a room with a marshmallow and tell them they can have one now, but if they don't eat it in 5 minutes, they can have two or whatever, right? And they show that these kids who refrain from eating the marshmallow, as they get older, everything about their life improves, right? So we have a real good reason here not to give in to short-term impulses and to think long-term. Now, I'm not going to go into it here in this podcast on the tools and techniques that we need to implement in order for us to deal with short-term cravings. That is something that we cover in the intensive. But I do want you to think long and hard about how we deem the value of drinking alcohol. Or in this case, I'm going to talk about the value of drinking wine. Okay? So we could think, oh yeah, wine does provide us value because it has all these short-term benefits. It improves my social experience. It tastes really nice. It gives me an immediate buzz. It removes any stress that I have or issues that I have in the world, etc., etc., etc. That is one way you can think about it. Another way you can think about it is to ignore the short-term benefits and to focus on the long-term philosophy of the truth about alcohol, okay? And the long-term philosophy of wine and what value wine provides you over the long term. So over the long term, when you continually drink wine, what is it doing to you? How is it affecting your teeth? How is it affecting your gums? How is it affecting your body? How is it affecting your relationships? How is it affecting your ability to work in a career? How is it affecting your sex life? And on and on and on, but in a longer term perspective, okay? So that's the first thing that I wanted to stress, is if you find yourself trying to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol, okay, and you start questioning the truth about alcohol philosophy and start thinking, well, no, wine has short-term value, Lee, what you're saying here is incorrect, then stop yourself and have a little think. Because if that is happening to you, resistance is very definitely taking control in that moment. The resistance, okay, doesn't want you to drink alcohol, wants you to drink alcohol. And anything that prevents that from happening, the resistance will try to sabotage it. So if I'm telling you to think long-term philosophy, and the reason I'm telling you that is because when I adopted the long-term philosophy around value, it helped me become someone who doesn't drink alcohol without craving. So I know it works, and I've seen it work in the intensive, okay? Because I know it works, I'm going to teach you that and to explain that to you. But your resistance doesn't want you to believe me because your resistance wants you to drink. So you'll find yourself defending yourself against me. You'll find yourself thinking about all manner of reasons why wine does have value. And therefore, if you keep thinking that, you're going to keep hooked. Okay? So what you've got to do is you've got to change the way you're thinking, make it more macro, not micro, broaden it into long term, not short term. Okay? Super important. The other thing you need to do is to interrogate and experiment around your value propositions. Okay? Because I was reading Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life last night. I'm on rule 3, I think. And he talks about the gorilla experiment. I can't remember the name of the researcher who does it. But it goes something like this, right? There's a group of people in white shirts and black shirts, I think, or whatever the colours are. And they're tossing basketballs to each other. And they're filming it. It's a video. You can Google it, right? They're tossing basketballs to each other. Well, you can't Google it because I'm just about to ruin it to you. I'll ruin it for you. So there's a challenge before you watch the video where the experimenter says to you, how many times do they throw the ball to each other? So your task is to count how many times they throw the ball to each other. And then when the video ends, you're supposed to give your number. And if you're a smart ass like me, you want to get it right. And I don't know, you might say the answer is 18. And then the experimenter will turn around and say, well, yeah, it was 18. Well done. But what about the gorilla? And you'll say, what about the gorilla? And they'll say, well, didn't you see the gorilla? And you'll think back to what you've just watched on the short video, which is only a couple of minutes long. And you'll think it is ludicrous for this guy to believe there's a gorilla in the actual picture. Excuse me. But when you play it back, and now you're not thinking about how many times they're throwing a ball around, you're just focusing on the gorilla. Lo and behold, in the middle of this video, while you're watching these people throwing a basketball around, a big-arsed, airy gorilla walks into the screen, beats its chest, and waves at you. How could you possibly have not noticed that? How can you not notice a video with a man dressed up in a gorilla costume, beating his chest and waving at you? But I'm telling you, when I watched that video, and this happens for 1 out of 3 people, I think, I didn't see the gorilla. And what Jordan Peterson is saying in his book is, look, we see a lot around the world. Like right now, I can see a Smelly Wellies game, I can see an iron, I can see a photograph of a kid with a rugby ball, I can see the door, my smoothie, loads of different things, the little Dorothy shoes, right? The whole works. But our minds can't take in all of the information that the world is throwing at us. So what it will do is it will shut off the world, okay? It will shut off the world, and it will only focus what we are aiming at. It's almost like we're a laser-powered rifle, and the red dot is pointing there, okay? And because the red dot is pointing there, our senses okay, and our subconscious and our conscious mind are just focused on this laser-like dot, okay? So, for example, let's say we're focused on the fact that our life is absolute total shit, then that is where we will focus. That's where our red dot will be, and everything around us will appear to be really shit, and we won't notice all these opportunities that are around us that are really great, okay? Let's say we buy a new yellow car all of a sudden, and we start thinking about our lovely yellow car, then all of a sudden the yellow dot will go towards yellow cars, and you'll start seeing yellow cars, and you'll start thinking, oh wow, I can't believe how many yellow cars I've been seeing since I bought this new car. But you were always seeing them, you just weren't paying attention to them, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to our value around alcohol. We have a perception, we have a view that wine, let me just pick one value, right? We have a perception and a view that wine helps us socialize. When we go out and have a social experience, we think wine helps us. And because our laser is fired in and focused in on the belief, actually a conviction that wine helps us socialize, we're not willing to take in any other opinion or any other reflection that might not be true. And even if we do open ourselves up a little bit to listen to someone like myself to tell us that maybe it doesn't improve our social situation, we are still finding it super, super difficult to really open ourselves up and be open-minded enough and radically open-minded enough to listen to this person, because we will be suffering from the death effect. We will not hear them. We won't want to, because the resistance wants us to drink. It doesn't want us to stop drinking. Okay, so with this laser-like focus and the way that our biology works and just focusing on one thing, we need to be aware of that and raise awareness of that. And this is what the truth about alcohol is all about. It's about raising awareness about the way that we think, about the way that our minds and our bodies work, about the way that our subconscious controls our decisions, and about trying to take some control from that. All right, so I think that is super important as well when you're thinking about value. Now, I want to talk to you about the value that I used to get out of drinking wine, because everybody's different, okay? And I don't have time to go through every single value, but the process will be the same, I think, when you think about them. So I drank wine for a couple of reasons. One, I really thought that drinking wine would enhance my social experience, all right? I thought it would enhance my social experience. I drank wine because I thought it tasted nice, or certain wines tasted nice. I drank wine because I thought it made me sophisticated. It made me somewhat better than my friends who were drinking beer. Like, I was more. I had this worldview when I was younger. I think it came from the fact that I never had anything when I was a kid, and that I was a half-caste Chinese Englishman living in Wales, so therefore I didn't fit in like everybody else. And I really wanted to fit in. I had this worldview or this goal to be someone special. Like, I needed to be wealthy. I needed to have, I had a very materialist outlook on life. I needed to be up on a plinth above other people, right? Almost narcissistic, you know? It was like, that's how pushed I was and driven I was to fit in and to be someone in society, right? So I used to think that drinking wine helped me with that. It was all part of the deal, you know? Like, and the more expensive wines that I bought, the better, yeah? The other thing is, I don't know, for me, wine and romance and wine and sexiness and sex and, you know, going out to a restaurant and having a meal. Also, when I ate, I didn't have room in my belly for beer. So there was a story built up that if I sat down in a restaurant and ordered a shot of vodka, I would be an alcoholic, right? But if I ordered a nice glass of wine, then I would be sophisticated. So there was that element to it as well. So I want to talk about socializing first, okay? And this belief that alcohol enhances your social experience. Now, for me, I don't believe that is true. And most importantly, I made a decision to believe that story is not true, and to turn that story into a conviction that it's not true, right? And here's why. Talking about short-term gain and long-term philosophy again, okay? Now, if we go out for a night with a friend and we're drinking wine together, okay? Now, I don't know about you folks, but when I used to drink wine, I was a 2 to 3 bottle man. One bottle wouldn't touch the sides really. 2 bottles would screw me up. And 3 bottles would leave me with a massive, massive red wine headache in the morning. And I always drank red wine, not white wine. Again, I thought drinking red wine was somehow tougher and harder and more masculine than drinking white wine, okay? Because for me, around the taste, drinking something that was sweet, like white wine, wasn't masculine enough. I had to drink something that was dry and a bit to be a man, right? So anyway, socializing. So you go out socializing with your friend, you've got a couple of bottles of wine. And at the beginning, when you're drinking this stuff, if you're shy or you're a little introverted or you're a little bit uncomfortable in social situations, you might feel like the wine is greasing you up a little bit. Greasing you up as in greasing up your tongue, allowing you to talk, giving you a bit more confidence, etc., etc. But think about what's happening longer term. And think about the whole point of going out in the first place. Why would we go out in the first place? Why are we socializing? Well, if we're single, we might be going out because we want to meet a mate. Meet a mate as in have sex with a mate and meet someone we're going to fall in love with, live happily ever after. So there's that sex kind of like connection, falling in love part of it. But then there's this other big part of it, which is you just want to connect with your friends. You want to connect with your friends. You want to have fun. Okay, and if we just remove for a minute all the external elements like the jukebox, the music, the pool table, the football on the TV, and just concentrate on the core principal act that's going on, and that's you having one-to-one conversations with a variety of different people, then in order for you to get the best out of those conversations and to have the most laughs and to get the most deeper and to cry and all these different and express your full range of emotions, you need to be compos mentis, right? Because the more with it you are, the more able you are to be present for the person you're talking to. The more present you are talking to the person and the great listener you are, the deeper your conversation will be, because the person you're talking to will trust you more, and therefore they will release more and they will talk more, they will go deeper. And they're more likely that they are to hold presence for you and to listen to you when you talk, because they would like to reciprocate, okay? That we have a law of reciprocity, okay? It's just inherent in us, in our biology. When we do a favor for someone, they want to do a favor back. So, it's really super important. So when you're talking to someone and you're drinking wine, what is happening? Well, the wine is turning you into an idiot, right? It's slowly reducing your ability to retain your short-term memory. You can't really remember what you're even talking about. The more and more you drink, you get more and more stupefied and more dumbed. For some people, they get a little giggly and a little stupid. Other people get a little aggressive. Other little people just get dumb and kind of sleepy. Yeah. But there's no doubt about it. If you spend a night in a room with somebody drinking wine after wine after wine, then after a while, you are not going to remember large chunks of the evening, or you might not remember any of it. You certainly, if you're like me and you black out every time you drink, then there are large swathes of the night you're not going to remember, okay? So how is that improving your social situation? It's not. It's almost like saying, well, I'm going to go out and just ask someone to repeatedly punch me in the face. Like, it's long term. All alcohol is doing is robbing you of presence, robbing you of connection, okay? And we're not even going into what happens when you're completely K-lied in terms of sleeping with the wrong person, saying the wrong thing, losing your stuff, posting on social media, crying your eyes out over the same old shit that you cry about time and time again, really pissing off the person you're with because, oh my God, here she goes again crying about this problem she never solves. We're not even going there. All I'm saying is, if you think you're drinking wine to help you socialize, it ain't happening. Because if you drink wine, okay, and actually wine in itself, although you might think that it's giving you a buzz and it's making you feel confident, that feeling wears off very, very quickly. And do you know what happens when it wears off? You feel anxious because your body got used to it and it wants some more. So it tells you to drink more. So you get into this oscillation, this cycle of I'm drinking because it's made me feel good. But then when I've stopped drinking, I have a aching gap and the body wants more and it starts to make me anxious, so I'm going to have another drink, and then I'm anxious again, another drink, then I'm anxious again. And then when you go to bed at night, you can't sleep very well when alcohol is inside your gut, so you lose a lot of sleep, you wake up with an hangover, etc., and you're telling yourself, yeah, but drinking this stuff is helping me socialize, right? It is not helping you socialize. It is weakening your position. If you want to increase your ability to socialize and you're shy or you're anxious or you suffer from depression or you just don't like fucking people, okay, there are a number of things you can do in order to change that. One, join a forum like Strive, a movement like Strive, and get used to expressing yourself and being vulnerable and being at one with shame and being at one with guilt and learning to develop pride and just get used to being talking to people. You could take communication lessons and skills. You can read great books like People Skills by Robert Bolton, which is a fantastic one. Beyond Beliefs by Melanie Joy. Excellent communication books, all right? You can go to communication courses if you're in relationships with people. If you're not in relationships with people, you can go on courses with your friends. You can practice these things. The 5 Secrets of Effective Communication with David Burns. Listen to his podcast, the Feeling Good podcast, or read his book, Feeling Good Together, and practice talking like that with friends, okay? And then you can improve your social skills so you don't feel anxious when you go out, and therefore you don't need alcohol. Another thing that I want to say on this point, or 2 more things. One is really question whether it is, why are you anxious? Are you anxious because you don't know how to fit in, because you don't know what to say, because the people you're hanging around with are saying stuff and talking about shit that you're not interested in? Because most people, even if they're shy and a little bit introvert, if you get them talking about something you love, you can't shut them up. It's invariably because you're in a group that you really don't belong in, but you've kind of just ended up in it, and you're really worried about changing it and getting rid of it because A, you're worried about what these people will think. Look, you've just given up drinking alcohol, and all of a sudden all your mates think you're a tosser because you're giving up alcohol. Look at this prick. He thinks he's a Billy Big Potato. He thinks he's better than us because he doesn't drink and we do drink. So that happens. And then you turn around and stop hanging around with them. They're going to think you're an even bigger prick. And you know that, or at least you assume that that's going to happen. That's a story that is in your head. So that is kind of going on. So it's really difficult for you to leave that group. But you need to think to yourself, why do I have to drink alcohol to socialize with these people? I should be able to not drink alcohol and socialize with them, and they should be okay with that, and I should be okay with that, right? So that is something that you really need to think about. What was the other thing that I was going to tell you about socializing? Let me think for a second. What was it? Socializing. It'll come back to me. Okay, so that's socializing for me, right? The other one is taste, okay? Now, I used to think that I drank wine because it tasted nicer than any other alcoholic drink. And outside of alcohol pops, that is probably right. And that's because of the sweetness in the wine, or even in dry wine, it's got fruit, right? Or that fruity kind of taste, okay? So I used to always go for like dark rosé type wines myself, kind of like I needed to be a man, so I couldn't have like prissy white wine, but I needed to also kind of like, it needed to be palatable for me, okay? So for me, I used to think that I drank alcohol because of the taste. But that's not true. It really isn't true. Because while I may have believed that I liked the taste of wine, I wasn't waking up in the morning and drinking it when I was thirsty and I wanted something really nice to drink. There were rules around it, right? So like, right now it's 9:47 on a Monday morning. I wouldn't drink wine on a Monday morning, but when right now I'm thirsty, right? I'm thirsty right now, and I want to drink. I don't necessarily want to drink a water. I want something nice, something like kombucha or something like coconut water, something that tastes nice as well as it refreshing me. Okay, I'm not going to go and drink wine, am I? I'm not going to say to myself, yeah, but I really like the taste of red wine. Let's go and have some wine. Because that's not why I drink wine. Like, And you don't realize this until you say to yourself, why aren't I drinking it outside of these constraints that I built up? So my constraints would be, I'm never going to drink wine before like 12 o'clock. I'm only going to drink wine in the evenings. And when I come home from work, I might have a glass. When I'm having dinner, I might have a glass. When I'm playing online poker, when I'm talking to my wife, when I'm socializing with friends. A rule of mine, when I go to restaurants and I'm eating, I would always drink wine rather than anything else. But I wouldn't have a wine at 9:48. I wouldn't come up off a football pitch, desperate for something to drink to quench my thirst that tasted nice as well, and have wine. I wouldn't go hiking and put wine in there for the sole purpose because it tastes nice. I know people who've got a problem with alcohol might go hiking and have wine, but are they going for the sole purpose of it tasting nice and quenching their thirst? I don't think so, right? That is not the case. And also, if you grade how much wine tastes out of 10 and then compare it to a lot of other things that you drink for taste that are rated out of 10, you'll find that wine is pretty much low down the pecking order, right? Which shows that you're not drinking wine because it tastes nice. So even if you really, 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 really think it tastes nice, you're not drinking it because it tastes nice. Now think about that. Beyond this podcast, go for a walk and think about it, because that is super, super important. Super important. Even if you think it tastes nice, you're not drinking it because it tastes nice. All right? You're not. Because if that was the case, you would just be able to stop drinking tomorrow. You would just be able to say, wow, the only reason I drink wine is because it really tastes nice, and I really struggle not to drink it because I really enjoy the taste of it. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Okay? Think about cakes. Cakes taste nice. If you decide you're never going to eat cake again, you're going to struggle. Why are you going to struggle? Are you going to struggle because it tastes nice? You're struggling because sugar is addictive. You're struggling because it is addictive. And addictive things are designed to taste nice, so you're addicted. It's part of the game, right? It's the same with alcohol. You're drinking wine because you're addicted to drinking alcohol. It's not because you like the taste of wine. Super important, all right? I used to go to parties and I used to buy wine that I like to taste. But what happens after you finish drinking that wine? What happens when it runs out and you're in a party? It's 9 o'clock at night, your wine's run out. You've just taken a bottle of your favourite plonk and it's run out. What do? Do you go back to the shop to get another bottle of what you like? No. Do you know what happens? You will drink any old shit. Any old shit. It doesn't matter if you like the taste of it or not, you will fucking drink it. I can give you an example. It's not wine, but it's alcohol. I was at my Uncle Jimmy's 70th birthday party about a year ago. I was sitting with my nan, who was in her 90s, my dad and my mum in their 60s. I was drinking sparkling water, and my nan and my dad and my mum were drinking lager. My dad turned around and said to my nan, "Isn't this disgusting?" And my nan said, "Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with it." And my mum said, "Yeah, it's foul. There's something wrong with it." And then all three of them continued to finish it. And then my dad said, "Well, what shall I get?" And my mum said, "Well, there's nothing else really there that I want, so just get me another one." And then he looked at my nan, and my nan just nodded to him. My dad went up and got another 3 pints of the stuff all three of them were saying would tasted like shit. Look, we don't drink wine because it tastes nice, okay? Because when we go to parties or when we're in situations where there's nothing else to drink, we will drink whatever is available, even if it's the most disgusting tasting wine there. We will drink it. Why? Because we don't drink alcohol because it tastes nice. We drink alcohol because we're addicted to alcohol. That's why we drink wine. We're addicted to alcohol. And part of that addiction is, I'm in a party, I must drink because everyone else around me drinking, so I don't care if this wine tastes like shit. The alternative is to drink something like water. I'm going to drink this shit tasting wine. And by the time you've had quite a bit of wine to drink, you're not compos mentis anymore. You can't remember what's going on. You've lost control of what's going on. So you don't even know that you're drinking this wine anymore because you're not with it. And you certainly can't remember the taste. You don't wake up the next day thinking, oh my God, that wine tasted horrible last night. You can't even remember drinking it, okay? Blind taste tests. Do your research. There is a lot of research out there that shows that these so-called wine experts who believe that they can sniff a wine and drink it and gargle it and spit it out and all that shit, the world's biggest fucking multi-billion-dollar con, okay? The wine tasting industry, all these people who believe that they have this sophisticated palate, the blind taste test show, they can't tell the fucking difference between a 10,000 pound fucking bottle of wine and a bottle of $2 chuck. And the more you do research on this in reading books like Mindless Eating by Brian Wansink, for example, or another book called Biology, I can't remember the author's name at the moment, you realize that taste, your actual taste buds, okay, play a very minimal part in the overall pie chart of why you choose to eat or drink stuff. Good example in the book Biology, okay, is they prove through scientific studies that if you walk down an aisle that had French wine on one side and German wine on the other side, and one week they played French music and the next week they played German music, guess what would happen? You would end up buying the wine that corresponded to the music that they were playing. If they threw up some garlic bulbs and a guy with a big twisty moustache and a big baguette, you're more likely to buy the French wine. If you got big Steiners everywhere and kind of German efficient Volkswagen looking people everywhere, you're more likely to buy the German wine. Now what's that got to do with taste? How much choice did you have in that moment of what wine you was going to buy? You didn't have any, did you? You know? And Mindless Eating by Brian Wansink is a brilliant book on how they have restaurants that are actually, like laboratories. And people know that when they're going in, they're going to be doing some sort of experiment, but they don't know what it is. And they'll do one side, they'll split the lab into two different restaurants. One of it, they'll make a real junky, crappy, shitty restaurant with like plastic cutlery and plastic plates and all that kind of stuff, and they will give you some a $2 chuck with a crappy little label on, which has got like 10,000 pounds wine in it. And then on the other side, they'll make it all up market and really plush and fantastic, and they'll put real shitty wine in a fantastic, beautiful, ornate looking, expensive wine bottle. And people will rate the wine as either being shit or nice, dependent on their external situation. You know, you stick a $2 chuck in a really nice bottle and you put them in a really nice surrounding place with nice italicized menus and the waiter speaking all French like this. And then all of a sudden, you rate that the wine was amongst the best tasting wine you've ever had. Yet you just drank $2 chuck. Similarly, you give somebody a really expensive bottle of wine in a shitty looking bottle in a shitty looking restaurant and you mark it down as being shit. Even worse than that, your mood and how much you enjoyed the experience also depends on your environment, all right? So the people who had all this elegant kind of blah, 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 they said that the food and the wine tasted better and they enjoyed themselves more than the people in the shitty area who said the food tasted worse. But the food was the same. The wine was different, all right? Super important that you realize and understand these things and understand that when you're telling yourself you drink wine because it tastes nice, it's the resistance saying you've got to keep drinking wine. You've got to keep drinking wine. And the reason that you've got to drink wine, one of the reasons you've got to drink wine is it tastes really nice, right? It tastes really nice. The final one for me was sophistication, you know? Was I really sophisticated by drinking all these bottles of wine? Well, on one hand, you could look at it and say, yeah, I am. And on the other hand, you could say, well, when you realize, Lee, that it actually doesn't improve your social experience, but it decreases it. When you realize that you're not drinking for the taste of wine, because if it was just for the taste, you would just literally buy green juice or a smoothie or Vimto and drink that all night. when you realize that all of these things, all of these reasons why you believe you drink wine don't really exist, and I did this once, you're spending up to £120 on a bottle sometimes, right? I did that in the Fat Duck here at Heston Blumenthal's restaurant. I spent £120 on a wine, all right? When you're doing that, and then all you do after it is end up falling out with everyone, blacking out so you can't remember anything, puking that very stuff that you've just spent £120 on out of your guts, okay? When you're doing all that, you actually think you're sophisticated. Well, when I talk to myself like that, I actually think like I'm a dickhead. I actually think to myself, how the fuck did I manage to get into this spot? How did I honestly think that this wine was providing me value? And once I think that and realize that, there's no way that I'm sophisticated. No way. If I want to be sophisticated, if I want to be the better man, if I want to be someone, an upstanding person in this community, drinking fucking wine and getting off my tits is the last thing that I want to be doing. I want to be doing what I'm doing now. I want to be walking into a room and someone says to me, hey Lee, what do you do for a living then? Well, I help people quit alcohol. Fucking hell, that's a noble thing to do. Well done for you. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel sophisticated. That makes me feel like I'm making a difference in the world. Not drinking wine. All right? So, there are many, many other reasons why you think wine offers you value. The only value that I can see in wine is if you want to commit suicide by drink by 1,000 bottles. If you're just unhappy with life and you just want to end it and you just want to fuck yourself up, then drinking wine will get you there, okay? But it's not going to help you socialize. You're not drinking it because you're socializing, it gets better. You're not drinking it because it tastes nice. You're not drinking it because it's sophisticated, all right? You're drinking wine because you're addicted to it. And you don't have to be the stereotypical archetype alcoholic to be addicted to wine. You could be drinking wine, I don't know, a couple of times a month and be addicted to it. Why do I know that? Because when you try to stop, and I know people who drink wine sparingly and they try to stop, they can't stop. They can't even stop drinking it sparingly. Okay? Why? Because they're addicted to it. They're addicted to alcohol. It's one of the top 5 most addictive drugs in the world. Drug, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. And for those of you that think, because the doctor told you that wine makes you live longer than everybody else and makes you healthier, that's because he's talking about resveratrol. Well, I have an idea for you. Here's an idea. Why don't you drink grape juice, which will taste better than wine, removes the alcohol, which is the poison that kills 3.3 million people a year, and buy a resveratrol supplement. Yep, there you are. There you get your resveratrol, you get your nice tasting drink, and you don't get the alcohol that kills you and makes you a fucked up mess. There you are. If you got any questions whatsoever on the value of wine, let me know. Thank you for listening as always. Bye-bye.